Today we're going to show you how we built this heirloom toy shelf for our children. And by we, I mean I found the picture, I was inspired, and I was like, hey, could you build this? And as always, my husband was like, yeah, let's do it. So we have our kids' toys currently, or we had them in these plastic bins, and we have like 8 to 10. I like to organize their toys by different types of toys, so they just take out one bin at a time. And so I had this idea from the picture I found on Pinterest that they would be in these cute wooden bins and it would just be an heirloom shelf, but I wanted it to also fit their books, and especially those big Book of Usborne books. So we picked our height and width and all the dimensions based on our space. I wanted it a certain height and a certain width to fit in this space in our living room / toy room area. And then he took the details that I gave him and he brought it to life for us.
So I actually had the store rip these down to size for a few of my pieces so that I was able to have it fit in our minivan. I started off cutting all of the boxes. I'm not sure why I didn't use my table saw in this scenario, but I definitely could have, and looking back, there's probably a reason I didn't, but looking back, I probably could have saved some time doing that as well, and would have had straighter cuts. So for the boxes, I had to cut a few different pieces. I had to cut the bottoms, as well as 2 different sides. To make this project a lot simpler, I used an app called Cutlist Optimizer V2. What I did was I put in the dimensions of each cut that I needed to make each box that I wanted, and it made a whole schematic of the cuts that I needed, and it gave me a list of all the cuts I needed to make. Here I'm getting done cutting what I believe was the bottoms. Here's my nice stack of finished product. Here is my dado stack. I need to make a 0 clearance still for my table saw, but this is what I'm working with for now. Now it is time to start the box joints. I made this very simple jig. I want to stress that it is a very, very simple jig. It is by no means perfect, and it by no means made a perfect result, but they were very close to perfect, and I was very proud of them for how simple this jig was. I didn't have a ton of time to throw a nice sliding jig together, and I didn't have super glue on hand to be able to make the jig that I wanted to, so I just made this up as fast as I could, tested it out, and it seemed to work well. I wouldn't say that doing a box joint is complicated. It's more the meticulous factors of it that you really have to fine-tune your fitment, and then also know what you're doing with each piece of wood, because it's really easy to mess it up really quick. There's a lot of really good videos on YouTube on how to do box joints. There's so many different jigs that you can make too, so definitely go check those out to narrow down what you want to do. Here, me and Kaylin are kind of test fitting the first box that is done. This one went together pretty well. Some of the joints were a little loose, but I wasn't worried about that since I was going to be gluing them. I found that lettering each side of the wood helped match them up so that you don't accidentally cut the wrong joint in the wrong side. So for a box joint, you want to take your first piece, so I'm going to grab a piece here, and you're going to set it right up against your piece of wood and run it through. And then for the second piece, you want to take that piece, flip it over, put it on top, and put your second piece right up to it so that you can make a matching notch for the box joint. Then you want to flip that piece back around and have them match each other back to back. Put it over your notch and run it through, and then after that, you essentially are just picking it up, moving it over a notch, and running it through your dado blade again. Here's a stack of the boxes after I finished the box joints. They just need the handles cut into them. So now I'm taking a paddle bit and I'm drilling 2 holes. I think I used an 1.5 inch paddle bit here to drill these holes. So then after I was done drilling those holes, I took my jigsaw and I just connected the 2 holes together so that they'd make one long handle. I didn't really plan ahead how I was going to do this, but I randomly thought this up and it actually worked out really good. The cuts between the 2 holes weren't perfect every time because I was just freehanding it, but it just took a little bit of sanding to make them look nice. I gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the whole project, is using my router. This is a 1/4 inch roundover bit, and this thing makes edges look completely finished and nice. Now it's time for me to glue all these together. I didn't have enough clamps to clamp all of them since I had so many boxes, so I actually went ahead and used one of my ratchet straps, and I was surprised how well this worked. This is actually kind of a good life hack to use. I forgot to get this on video, but I put the bottoms on right there after I clamped them and used the ratchet straps so that I knew everything was square. Otherwise, they could have dried out of square without that bottom piece on. Now I'm taking each side of the toy shelf and I'm running them through the dado stack to make a groove for the back. Now I'm taking those sides and I am cutting the dados into them for the shelves. I made sure that I measured this a few times just so I was sure everything was going to line up correctly. I'm checking on the other side of the blade just to make sure that the blade is actually lining up with the marks that I made. I came to realize right here that I should probably just add marks on the edge so that I can actually see where I need it to go. This made it helpful lining it all up. Now I'm taking the shelf and I'm gluing it and tacking them together with staples. This isn't going to be the top that you'll see, so I'm not worried about how many staples I put in here. I just put a bunch so that I knew it was going to stay. Now I'm gluing all of the shelves. These are all of the grooves that I made for the shelves to slide in. I made sure to put way too much glue in there because I know I can just scrape it out afterwards and I don't want these to move at all. Since this project did take me a couple weeks, I wasn't able to fill in every single detail of the project or record everything, but this is the top that I made for it. I took 2 8-inch boards and I paired them together to make one board for the top. Then one of the more important parts of the project that isn't necessarily fun. Sanding seems like it's always going to be fun, and then you start doing it and realize how many different surfaces there are, and it takes you a lot of time. Now I'm using my 1/4 inch roundover bit on the edges of the shelf as well. and more sanding. I was smart enough though to take the back and sand the whole back before I installed it. That saved a lot of time. Here is everything put together. I am clamping the top onto the rest of the shelf. Here are those nice routed edges. I tried to put some cardboard under these clamps. That didn't work very great. It still made indents in the top, but I was able to sand them out a little bit. Here is me sanding some boxes at nighttime so I could get the project done. I was doing this after work little by little throughout a couple weeks. This is the bottom of the shelf. I did put staples, as you can see, from the bottom to the top to hold that top piece on, and then on the edges I clamped it. Kaylin was so gracious enough to help me out and finish this project while I was at work, and she had the kids hanging out playing in the backyard while she stained it. She stained the boxes and she stained the shelf, and this wax that we used turned out awesome. I will put a link in the description for that. Now it's time to move it inside. Here's a final look of it before it goes in, of all the nice edges and that wax.
Should we put all your music stuff in this?
Good job.
Whoa!
The kids were super excited to put all their toys away and put their books up where they should go. Of course, Kaylin was really happy to organize it all and see how well everything fit together. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something. I'm not very meticulous when it comes to putting down measurements and stuff. Maybe in the future I will do that a little bit more, but I hope this gives you an idea of something that you want to build and gives you some creative juices flowing to be able to go out and build something like this on your own.